All right, everybody, Chop It On here, back at you Thursday, early day. We don't have a lot of time to build lineups right now, about 90 minutes left, but that's a good thing because the ownerships are in the optimizer and they will not be updating as frequently as if we had done this an hour or two ago. So you get pretty fresh data today. They'll still change a little bit, but you get pretty fresh data right now, pretty current data that you can use. So we'll dive in, but I want to explain something. There are no rules in MLB DFS. There are no rules in DFS in general. There are only guidelines. So all of this is subject to evolve, to change a little bit, but we go in general directions that we usually do the same thing. We set a repeatable pattern, one that has proven successful in the past. We may modify it a little bit as we go or on a day-to-day basis. Yesterday, I modified what I do. I'll show you the routine here in a second, but yesterday I modified what I did because there were 4 pitchers that were at 20% ownership or so. That meant the field was not locked onto one pitcher. That meant that all of those pitchers were pretty viable for cash, give or take your own personal bend. If you showed up with any of those 4 pitchers, I'm not going to complain at you. Number 2, some of the positions were locked in. Vladimir Guerrero at first base. Optimizers around the industry were really wanting to shove Corey Seager down our throats. I personally did not like Corey Seager in his recent play. Been scoring a lot of zeros. That's death to a cash game. So I looked to immediately pivot off of him. In the lineup that I built, I had Bo Bichette. I almost called him Dante Bichette, but Bo Bichette in the utility hole. So I immediately took him, swapped him up for Seager in the shortstop. Then that left me a utility spot to fill out. I went looking through. I love leaving my utility for last. I can usually save money along the way, have a good amount of money left over in the utility spot when I hand build, but I also get the chance to have every position at my disposal. I don't just have to find a second baseman for 2,800. If I'm finding a utility spot for 2,800, I've got a lot more options, typically outfield spots that produce. So I can see that coming as I'm building, and I can make those modifications. I put Bichette up there in the shortstop spot, took Marcell Ozuna in cash, in the outfield or in the utility spot. Then the Houston lineup came out. Kyle Tucker wasn't in it. I have no idea what happened that he later appeared in the lineup. Maybe it was some sort of a mistake. I have no idea. But Kyle Tucker was not in the lineup. That threw everything off because all of a sudden now, what do? I have to pivot and get Tucker out of there. I take Tucker out and I move Marcell Ozuna immediately into his outfield spot. And now I've got a lot of room to play with in the utility. And I'm sitting around looking at some of the same names, but I looked at Marcell Ozuna and said, well, maybe now I can get a little upgrade off of Marcell Ozuna. Even a little bit cheaper than Marcell Ozuna was Joey Gallo. I hate using Joey Gallo for cash games. He's been on a heater lately, though. He was carrying ownership. I thought, what the heck? Let's see what that gets me in terms of the utility spot, because it will free up another $300-400. It did. It all of a sudden got me looking at utility spots like DJ LeMahieu, great cash game play. Anthony Rendon, great cash game play. Alex Bregman even sometimes. These are the types of names that you want to use in your cash games. So I thought, you know what? Ozuna was iffy. I liked Kyle Tucker. I could use him if I had Tucker, I could use Ozuna, but it was a little bit iffy. Now I turn around and say, now I'm going to go against what I usually do, which is use Joey Gallo in cash because it gets me Rendon or LeMahieu, which are great cash plays. I like them better than finding somebody and leaving Ozuna in my lineup. So it became kind of a 2v2 swap. It hit right on the cash line depending on what contest you were in. Big double up on Fanduel. It lost by a few points, but the smaller double up, it won that by about, a tenth of a point. It was very close. And then the $5 double up, it actually won that one by 3 or 4 points. So depending on where you put the thing in cash, in 50-50s, it probably would have cashed as opposed to double ups very easily. So that's basically 5 out of 6 days we've cashed. If you count yesterday as a win, we're 6-0. Those are good numbers for cash games. So the system works. At least it's off to a very, very good start. Let me show you what we're talking about today, and we'll see if we find some pivots. The first thing I'm going to do is leave optimal mode. I use tournament mode for tournaments. I'll use optimal mode for some cash game stuff. 1 unique player. And let's do a core today. Let's build a core. We'll do 4 unique players. 3 lineups, no randomization, and I don't touch anything else. I come down here, I sort by projected ownership. I push that button once, brings all of the chalk plays to the top, and I start going position by position after I uncheck everybody. I'm only checking back the cash game players that I want to use. I'm not using risky guys. I'm not using bottom of the order guys. I'm using high ownership guys, and names that I know. So I'm going to come through here, start with my pitcher. That's where I always start with the cash game build. 22, 17, 15, 13. It's starting to drop off down in here, but these names are probably okay. Wheeler's probably the cash pick. Verlander's a fine option. Freddie Peralta's been a little up and down lately. Kopech, they're not being used enough for me to want to stick my money there. So I will stick right here. I've got a high price and a low price with Wheeler and Verlander. We'll see what the optimizer gives me. In catchers, we don't need their combined catcher and first base over on Fanduel. There is no ownership for catchers. We will not need one today. We come over here, and I'm pretty much checking back anybody about 15% owned. That's a lot of people. I could stop at these two with Rizzo and Vlad, but Rhys Hoskins, Joey Votto, I don't know. You'd have to look at their game logs. They might not be great, but they might be in good matchups, and they're cheaper. If the optimizer needs the money, we've got it available for them. We're saving it some money. We're not paying up at every single position. Brandon Lau's going to be in there. DJ LeMahieu, again, is a cash game stalwart. And then a drop-off. Cronenworth, Birdie, Polanco. No, just leave these two alone and move on. The drop-off was just too big at the ownership spot. There's 24, 23, 22, and a 1, and then it drops all the way to 13% again. So any of these four are viable. We'll let the optimizer and the projections pick, though. Adames, 15%. Cronenworth, Wander Franco. I guess I'm on Willy Adames today just for lack of better options or lack of more options. If you want to use a Carlos Correa, that's okay. I'm going to tell you it's wrong. There are not enough people on the play for it to matter. And usually the consensus ownership projections steer you in the right direction in terms of which players make the most sense. You can find a pivot or two, single entry tournaments, etc., but I don't typically do that for my cash game. Aaron Judge is going to be very popular. Stanton's going to be very popular. Bryce Harper is a good cash game play. Chas McCormick, maybe. Jordan Alvarez, yes. Jorge Soler, Joey Gallo, okay, good. We don't have to use any of these guys under about 15%. We've got some options. Let's see if the optimizer will build us 3 lineups. 3 lineups, 4 unique players. The reason why I used 4 unique players, it's really going to shuffle these lineups up. But I'm looking for my core. My core is not even my pitcher today. My core, well, I guess it is. It's Zach Wheeler. It chose the cheaper option. That's fine. Adames and Judge, core plays. Of course, Adames is the only shortstop we checked. Judge, it used in all 3 lineups. Everybody else used in 2 of 3. Fine. I'm going to come back up here, and I'm going to change this back down to only 1 or 2 players, and I'm going to re-optimize, and these are the lineups I'm going to pick from. If I want, I can make 4 or 5 lineups. They're all going to be very similar because they're all using a very, very small player pool of 17 players, right? That's my player pool. That's what I want. So I'm looking at Wheeler, Lau, Adames, Stanton, Judge in all 5 lineups that I built. That's fine. If I come down here, I'm not looking at projected points. I'm not looking at any of that stuff. I'm just looking at the lineup and which one do I feel like I like the best? Which one has no up and down boom or bust players? If I had more time, I would dive in and I would go into some game logs and look at like a Rhys Hoskins. How's he playing lately? What's his 7-day or his 14-day WOBA at right now? What's his matchup look like today? These are things I would do. Being that the Phillies are chalky plays, I assume that they're pretty decent favorites and they're facing weak pitching, and that's why we're getting Phillies. If you wanted to use an Odubel Herrera, if he leads off, he's been hot lately. He would probably be okay. But Rhys Hoskins and Bryce Harper, I don't mind that. Lau in second base is okay. Stanton and Judge, of course, with Donaldson. It loves Donaldson in that loves Donaldson at third base. I would find a way maybe to get DJ LeMahieu in there if I was using 3 Yankees. I might not use any of them at all, being that I'm going to be using 2 in Stanton and Judge most likely. Adames, again, is the only shortstop option we had. Judge, Bregman in the utility. Love it. This is a decent lineup. I maybe can feel one out that feels a little bit better. Votto at first base. Depending on his recency, Votto is usually a pretty decent cash play. I don't think he's hitting for power yet this year, so I would be a little bit worried. We're not looking for upside only in cash games, but upside helps. We're not looking for floor only either. We're looking for guys with high floors that also have upside. That's your secret to your cash game builds. Lau Machado, that's interesting. I didn't realize I'd checked his name. Adames, Stanton, Harper, Judge, Hoskins in the utility. This is one where I might, got 400 left on the table. I might take a Rhys Hoskins or a Joey Votto out. Rhys Hoskins, 3,100. Joey Votto, 2,500. Votto can't probably hurt you at 2,100 or 2,500. So let's take a peek at what we've got for Rhys Hoskins. Bregman, I like better. There's LeMahieu. Alvarez, McCormick, Bregman or LeMahieu becomes the choice. So getting away from Yankees, I'd probably put Bregman in there. I've got 2 Yankees, I've got 1 Philly, a red I'm not happy about, a Ray, a Padre. I might look to get Machado out of there. In fact, I could probably take Bregman out. Let's put Hoskins back in for just a second. Let's put LeMahieu at third. Or I'm sorry, Bregman at third. And then let's come down here and see if we've got room for LeMahieu. We do. Now, Machado might be great. Why did it do that to me? But this lineup to me looks interesting. This isn't the one. Where are we? So I started clicking on shit and got confused. Machado in the utility. Donaldson, Machado. That's not going to be right. We wanted Bregman at third, and we wanted either LeMahieu or Machado in there. Rizzo, Guerrero. Ooh, Guerrero. It's an interesting play. This is not terrible either. So you can play around a little bit. That's using Jordan Alvarez, though. If I wanted to get off of Alvarez, I come a little cheaper in the utility spot. Let's put Votto back in the top hole where he was for Rhys Hoskins. This thing is jumping around on me. This is silly. I want Votto up there in the 2. Yeah. Wheeler, Votto, Lau, Bregman, Adames, Stanton, Judge, Alvarez, Guerrero. If I take out Guerrero for somebody cheaper right now in the utility spot. Now see, I'm getting way off track here. See, it's jumping around on me. I don't know why it's doing that, but you've got to pay attention to it. There's, pick somebody different. There, Rhys Hoskins, because I want to get Jordan Alvarez out of there. And there's Bryce Harper. And now I can take Rhys Hoskins. And see, I've got Votto, Lau, Bregman, Adames, Stanton, Judge, Harper. And now I've got a utility for a consistent player. Machado, LeMahieu. I've got 3 Yankees probably if I use it. So if I went Machado, there you go. Now, I could use a 3rd Yankee, and LeMahieu is a great cash game option. I could take out a Stanton if I wanted to and put in somebody else. I'm not touching Judge right now, most likely. But any of these names that I'm choosing from are in this tight 17 player. It said it used 14 players, but I've got about a 17 player pool. This is what I'm doing. I'm just switching and swapping these one-offs and getting a lineup that I like. If I wanted to run just a straight systematic approach, I'd take this top lineup and throw it in my cash games. It would be my cash game build. But I like to fine-tune things a little bit. And if I'm using those high-owned players, the tightest player pool I can use, then I'm not going to be going wrong really with just about any combination that I choose. So I'm going to make the lineup that I like. It gives me a little bit more control over what I'm doing. I'm letting the domination station guide me, set me up with the good plays using the ownership projections and a little bit of what I know to include players in my player pool. And then I'm finishing off the lineup. I am letting it say it wants Zach Wheeler over Justin Verlander, and it's using Stanton and Judge in every lineup. That's fine with me. I will make the other pieces kind of change around a little bit as I want, and I'll make 2 or 3 little changes, and that's how I'm going to build a cash lineup. It's still a cash type of lineup. It's what I feel like is a good one. I'll throw this one out there today, and we'll see how this one works. It's what we've been doing for the whole week. We're 6-0 or 5-1, depending on how you look at it, and hopefully today is another successful day. Hopefully you understand where I'm going with this. Hopefully you understand the system and the process, and you can use these tools at DFS Army to do exactly that. Going forward, we'll probably dive in a little bit to Research Station, to the Trends tab, to some of this other stuff. Maybe make some pivots, maybe build some small league or 100-man league lineups, and maybe some single-entry GPP lineups. If you like that type of content, click like, click subscribe. Come to dfsarmy.com, become a VIP, use the coupon code DFSARMY if you're not already in here, and get 10% off. Look me up, Chapadong. I'm in the beginners forum. I'm in the MLB room all the time talking to people, teaching them to become better DFS players. Peace out, homies. Thursday, April 28th. Rock and roll.